This video is about the loss of motivation and energy that we experience as we are going through the spiritual awakening process, and why that occurs and what you can do to help yourself with this particular challenge. So what happens during awakening, we find out pretty early on, is that we start to lose interest in the things that we were interested in before, whether they were hobbies or perhaps doing certain type of exercise or the job that we do or socializing or whatever it is, the things that made up who we thought we were. We start to lose interest in them, and that just happens naturally. And we also at the same time start to get a depletion of energy, of motivation, of passion, of creative energy. All of this type of energy that we used to put towards doing activities and also daydreaming about activities and planning activities and goal setting and fantasizing about the future. We use this particular type of energy that we had to get motivated to do the things that we wanted to do. And we could call this energy personal will or egoic will. It was the will of the illusory separate self. And it was really an energy force that gave you the motivation, it gave you the passion, it even gave you the sense that I even want to do this, the wanting, the desire, and also the energy to actually achieve things, to get things done, to be successful at things, to do difficult things, and to even do things that you didn't want to do, perhaps, but it gave you energy in life to get things done. And this starts to deplete as we are going through the spiritual awakening process. And this can be quite surprising and quite a challenging part of awakening, because we are still in the process of awakening, which takes many years to unfold. And we may understand that it's happening for a reason, and that it's even a good sign that it's happening, which it is, because it shows that the egoic tendencies that are driving that energy, that personal will, that motivation, are depleting, which means ego is depleting, the egoic tendencies are depleting. So it's a great sign of progress with awakening if this is happening. But it makes it hard to just operate day to day. And we can have fear about, well, how are things going to look if they get any worse, if I have even less energy or even less motivation? How am I going to go to work? How am I going to participate in family events and all the things that we do in life? So it's an understandable concern. And probably everyone that's been through the awakening path has had similar thoughts at some stage, and particularly in modern awakening, where we're living an ordinary life and going to work and looking after children, but also going through an awakening. It can be particularly concerning because you're worried about how you'll get everything done that you need to do, and how you'll survive and allow your family to thrive as well. So it's certainly understandable that we would be concerned about this part of awakening, but it is actually a very normal part of the awakening process, and it's actually crucial for the doer energy to stop being engaged, and for the identity that makes up the character, the illusory self, for that to stop being fed. So that character, that illusory self that was there, that was who you thought you were, that you were conditioned to believe that you were, that was made up of a whole different range of ideas and memories and concepts and all of these things that you were told and that you've picked up along the way, and also things that you have done and that you do, and that makes up who you think you are. That is illusory. And so for us to see the truth of who we are, we need those things that we're doing that are feeding that false identity, that character story, to be taken away through life, taking it away, or through us losing interest in it, for us to see that we're not that. So it is an extremely important part of awakening in breaking apart the false identity. But it doesn't feel very good, because then we're a bit lost in no man's land. Well, not only do I not know who I am, but I don't know what I like to do, and I don't know what to do with my time, perhaps, or I don't know how to get the energy to do the tasks that I need to do. And so this can go on for a few years, this phase of sort of being in between the old way of doing things and the new way hasn't really come into effect yet. And so we're sort of in the middle, and this can be challenging. And so we have to really try to access the trust and devotion that we have in truth that has grown through the awakening process up to this point, and see that it's not trying to destroy our life. It might feel like that at times, but there's a great purpose to why you're losing interest in things, why you don't have energy for things. There is a divine purpose, and it is intelligent. And it's not just happening to make life difficult. It's happening for a very specific reason. It's happening to let go of identity, to let go of doer energy, so you can start to access being rather than doing, rather than wanting, rather than desire the next thing. And to also help you to see through the illusion, which is being kept in place by you doing all of those different things and believing that you're a person that does those things, that does that job, that is a parent, that enjoys those hobbies, that is a good musician, or whatever the case may be. It's to help you to see that you're not that was just a story, that was the identity that you're trying to break through. But we have to be physically depleted of the things that we used to do, and also along with that goes the energy and the motivation and the passion to even do those things. And so pretty early on in awakening, we can not only lose interest in what we enjoyed doing in the past, but also just have no energy to put onto any other thing. And thank goodness for that, because if we had the energy still there, the egoic will, that personal will to put onto another activity and transfer it to another hobby, another interest, another job, the next thing, then we wouldn't wake up. We wouldn't be letting go of any identity. We would just be transferring it to the next thing, to a spiritual seeker identity, or whatever the next identity would be. What we really want is that depletion of that energy. We're wanting it to die out. Really, that's what we're wanting, that energy to really do. It's like a deflated balloon. We're wanting it to completely die out. And so we can encourage this process once we understand that that's actually what we want. It doesn't feel very good, and we can be concerned and have stressful thoughts about how we're going to operate in the world. That's totally understandable. But if we know this is divinely intelligent, it's happening for a reason, I will cope, just like everyone that's been through it before me will find a way to cope, and I'll survive and work my way through it. And the sooner I get through it, the sooner I'll be on the other side, the sooner I'll be operating in a different way. So I can support this process through putting down those things that feed the identity, putting down those hobbies that I do that I know are feeding those egoic tendencies. I can stop applying for promotions. I can stop looking for the next job. I can stop doing the things that are keeping that energy going, and just allow it to deplete as quickly as possible. So that's the sense of control. It's not like a literal control that we have, but that's something where we can place our attention, is to support the process in allowing it to just be done with as quickly as possible, through not feeding those activities and doing those things that keep identity going. So we can do that to help the process just move along more quickly. And it's also helpful to know that there is a way that we operate when we're awake, and this sort of kicks into gear before we even have the permanent awakenings. And we could call it divine will or thy will, but we operate in a way that is quite different energetically. It doesn't have the same life force energy as the egoic drive, that's for certain. It doesn't have the same passion or zest. It is a different feeling, certainly, but there is an energy and a way that we operate in the world when we're awake that is not about what the person wants. It's not about what the illusory self wants. And this divine will is quite different. It sort of does what is best for the whole, but your own personal needs of the human are still met and prioritized for your survival. Obviously, it makes sense. But you are not doing what the separate self wants because you're not living from that anymore. You know that that's an illusion. So instead, you do what is necessary to survive. So that never drops away. So if you need to make money to survive, for food, for rent, to pay the mortgage, whatever it is, that is never going to change. There will always be that need, and that will never drop away. Any egoic tendency that you had that was a part of that, that gave you energy, would have been stripped away, and you're just left with really the survival need or requirement to work to survive. So that stays there, but it doesn't have the same energy to it as you used to when you were operating from ego. That really gave you an energy to get up out of bed and to do things that were very hard. You're not going to be able to push yourself in the same way. You're not going to have the same energy likely that you had. Ego gives you a lot of energy and able to push your body beyond its means. You're not able to do that when you're operating from divine will. You always do what's best for the body and operate within a range of self-care for the body. So that causes a restriction that you may not have had when you're operating from personal will. And you operate from love. And so that sounds like a sort of lofty statement, but you do what is best for others. You do things that are caring. You do things that are compassionate. And this is just as you go about your day. This doesn't necessarily mean talking about awakening or anything like that. It's just you're operating from love and what's best for the whole. And so you are naturally compassionate and helpful and of service. That's your operating system. So whether you do that for your family or you do that for the community or in whichever way it appears, it will be different for each person, but you operate from an energy from necessity and survival, and also you have an energy that comes really from just pure love, from unconditional love, and that usually manifests as service to others. So there is a specific energy that comes from that as well. But these energies that we operate from when we're awake are very different from those egoic energies, which were a lot louder, a lot stronger, and perhaps able to get you to do things that were way beyond what you'll be able to do and push yourself to those limits that you could do when you're in ego. When you're awake, it's not going to be the same. It is very different, but you can certainly function and survive quite nicely.